Hey nieces and nephews, this is your black auntie, Quiana Ellison, and this is a Blackity Black recap. Last episode on Call Me Blackity Black, we talked about colorism within blackness, barely scratching the surface of colorism in the black community between dark-skinned individuals and light-skinned individuals. If you so happen to miss the last episode, there will be a link in the description box below, so check it out when you get a chance. In this episode, we will be addressing the misconceptions and discrimination against lighter-skinned black people. As a light-skinned black person, I can admit I haven't dealt with colorism as some of my darker-skinned brothers and sisters. Now, doesn't mean I haven't received my fair share of discrimination now. I remember going to a speaking arrangement, and after the arrangement, there was a Q&A session where we were able to conversate with one another. I found myself in a ravishing conversation with 3 Hispanic men, me being the only black person, the only black woman in this conversation. Now, I don't really remember what we were talking about. Honestly, I can't think of anything we were talking about. All I remember were the 3 distinct questions that one of these men decided to ask me. If you don't remember from the first podcast, I gave you guys a nice little taste of what I look like. I have nice caramel skin and ruddy hair. And I guess that's atypical in black people, enough to ask me 3 questions about it. We're talking, we're cackling, we're having a great time, and this one guy says, wait, I have to ask. You're 100% black. And I said, yes. He says, and that's all your hair? And that's your natural hair color? And I'm like, yeah, right? And we're laughing, we're having a great time. And he says, wait. Are your eyes green too? Now guys, this is where I had to stop him. I could have gone on and said, oh, of course my eyes are green. But at this point of my life, I used to wear green contacts for aesthetic reasons. So I had to stop him and say, no, my eyes are brown. And he says, wow, that's amazing though. You know, you have red hair, you're light skin, you're all black. It's crazy. And they're all laughing and having a great time until one of the men says, yeah, she couldn't be blessed with all of it now, couldn't she? At the time, I really didn't take it as a hit. I laughed and I was like, yeah, I couldn't be blessed with all of it. Now, could I? I couldn't be blessed with all of it. What is all? Please think to yourself, what is all? What part was the blessing? Now, I'm no scientist, but last time I checked on Wikipedia, of course, a reliable source, there is no hierarchy in our genetics about our phenotypical versus our genotypical traits. Only in society, we segregate the 2. So when the 3rd man said, wow, you couldn't be blessed with it all, I never took that as a hit in that moment until I was taking an African American history class. And the teacher was talking about microaggression. We're sitting there, we're learning, we're in school. And he says, think of a time that you received a microaggression that seemed like a backhanded compliment. And at the time, you received it as a full compliment. But as you sit in my class, you realize it had colorist intentions. And the first thing that popped in my head was this moment when I couldn't be blessed with it all. As we discussed in the last podcast about colorism, barely scratching the surface of the complexities of this discrimination, we talked about how lighter-skinned individuals are seen better than darker-skinned individuals, and that your lack of blackness makes you a little bit better. Colorism affects us in a way that we can barely understand. It's in our beauty, within our media, within our own subconscious. Colorism affects the way we speak to ourselves and to other people. Have you ever asked yourself, why is there an abundance of lighter-skinned black people in media and beauty than darker-skinned black people? No? Well, outside slavery, there's a hierarchy that began in the 19th century and the 20th century through the paper bag test. In my lifetime, I never received this paper bag test of a hierarchy of what I look like determines how much status I have. But my deceased grandmother laid it down for me. She was a high, yellow, strong black woman who lived through segregation and fought through the civil rights movement. And she always reminded me, and she let me know clearly that I was always going to receive a little more praise than my darker skinned brothers and sisters because I was lighter skinned. And as a child, you don't really understand that until they show you the paper bag. If you've ever seen a lunch bag, that's the type of brown we're talking about. Not too brown, not too brown. Now, from her perspective, the paper bag test was to determine which black people were acceptable and which black people were just inherently bad. The paper bag and lighter were good black people. You can get opportunities. You can go into our shops. You can get jobs. You can even date white people if you really want to, depending on the region. Now, darker than the paper bag now, that's when you run into trouble. You are now actually black, and that's a problem because you have inherently become a little too black for our comfortability. And that's the paper bag test. Simple. Too light? Great. Too dark? Not so great. What does this even have to do with our media, our beauty, in today's terms? Now really think of every successful black person that comes to your mind. What do they look like? What type of status do they hold? Who do you think of when you think of beautiful black person? Who do you see? What do you see? And why do you see it? In my personal life, being lighter skinned has had labels on me. Now, I'm not famous yet, but because I'm lighter skinned, there are a couple labels that have been placed upon me because of how I look. And for the sake of uncomfortability, I will address more of the negatives than I will the positive because there are plenty of positives. One label I would like to address is this trophy black person. People have idolized my lack of blackness as a trophy instead of a phenotypic trait. There is this radical belief that lighter-skinned individuals have a higher emotional awareness than their darker-skinned counterparts. This perpetuates the idea that black people are less than human, which I can break down in the next video. Now, this hierarchy of light and dark doesn't just affect black people, but many ethnic groups outside of blackness have faced this colorist hierarchy. Because of the negative connotations that comes with being darker skinned, a silent killer called skin bleach has been the equalizer for darker skinned people to receive as much praise as lighter skinned individuals. There's an Indian skin lightening cream called Fair and Lovely, which lightens the skin and evens the skin tone to create an even, fair complexion. They even boast about having 38 million users globally. Why is being skin bleach a problem? Well, despite the social status that a person is trying to obtain, let's talk about the chemicals in these skin bleaches. We have mercury, arsenic, lead, cobalt, cadmium, nickel, and other highly toxic minerals that deteriorate the skin and cause skin cancer over time. And many people can deny that there is a problem between valuing light-skinned people over dark-skinned people, but you can't deny someone trying to obtain a status and compromising their own health along the way. If there was no benefit with being lighter skinned, why would someone put their own health at harm's way to bleach their skin to obtain a status that they were not born with? There is no status by being inherently lighter than another person, except if we see it that way. No person is smarter because they are lighter skinned. No person is less than human for being darker skinned. Only by society we see it that way. From little things as simple as a test to see how dark you are based on a bag, or how white you are based on your appearance. By not addressing the problem by viewing people better or worse based on their appearance, we are perpetuating colorism within our own ideas. We look at beauty and say, oh, it's fine to have 50 shades of nude, when nude is always peach and light yellow, but never brown of any kind. We acknowledge colorism when it comes to light-skinned people in a positive light, and we never want to challenge these belief systems of why do I value light skin? Where does this come from? And a lot of times you just don't see it. You just don't see it until you encounter other people. And this is why colorism is a deadly killer. There is no benefit to being lighter skinned if we see it as such. Someone looks the way they look based on their genetics, not based on some hierarchy that these people will be better because they're lighter. And it may seem like I keep saying the same thing over and over and over, but this is the same problem over and over and over. There should be as equal representation that the Beyoncés of the world and the Viola Davises should be valued as equals and not as competitors saying light skin versus dark skin. There needs to be an end to this colorist hierarchy that lighter skinned individuals are inherently better because it's false thinking and it creates division within an already marginalized group. The question I would like to leave with everyone before we log off is, what colorist tendencies do I display in my day-to-day life? Do I value lighter skin over darker skin? And if I do, how do I show it? Next episode, we will be speaking on the discrimination against darker skinned individuals in Blackness. Thank you for listening. Stay black, y'all.